Okay, the law of assumption is the theme.
Oh, believe it in.
And the first lesson was why prayer fails.
Yes.
And, right, and the reason prayer fails, very simply, is that we're not applying and we're not effective. We're not demonstrating that law of assumption. And we're talking about the power of imagination. We're not moving and living in and from the state of naturalness, the naturalness of being that which you desire. What is it? Oh, I did. Now, before I name the second lesson, the third lesson, and today the fourth lesson in this series, the law of assumption, let me just remind you of whose outline, whose theses, whose dissertation, whose instructions are we following? Neville. Neville Goddard. It is important for you to understand something about Neville Goddard that will make it a little easier for you to stick to this method. Neville Goddard was distinguished from the other powerful New Thought leaders of his time. Let's name some. Ernest Holmes. Troy predated him around. Well, let's put Troy. Let's don't try to. That's good. I don't want to say. Fillmore's. Charles Barker. Goldsmith. Joseph Murphy. So that's enough. But you get the idea. I want to do that so that you can observe something here so that you'll know what I'm doing and what I'm trying to do and what I'm practicing and getting results. Now listen to this. You got to know who Neville was, how Neville taught, and how Neville practiced, and I'm pointing out to you that there was something different about his practice than others. He stood apart. And if you're not recognizing that, then you are not practicing the way that he is leading you to practice, and you just might be continuing to practice in your same old way from which you have been taught and trained. That does not mean there's anything wrong with how you have been taught and trained. I was trained through the science of mind method and practice. Ernest Holmes, similar to Goldsmith, but yet not the same. And really not the same as Unity, Fillmore, and the others. Are you listening to me? Murphy, even Murphy. I went to the Wilshire Ebell Theater many nights listening to Joseph Murphy. I was blessed because I was able to get in on the end of his life to be able to sit at his feet. But you have to listen to the distinction between Neville and all the others, because you're trying to put into practice his teaching. Right? Let me give you an example of how that is so. And then you can see some of the others as well. As trained practitioners, and practitioners in our movement are the the professionals in the movement who are prayer therapists who have been trained in how to use the law of mind to help themselves, but principally also to help others by way of training. And what they do, they go about and set about, and remember that most of these other teachers have this same intent to teach you how to heal your life. How to heal your life. How to heal your life by healing your mind. Learning the control of the mind, the power of the mind, the science of the mind. But then there comes some divergences in their application of it. How they put it into practice. Neville's was distinguished. Now, there's a lot of confusion in the practice of it, and that is that some people, it wasn't necessary that they were trained that way, but the way they accepted the training and interpreted the training is, I can go to the practitioner or somebody, or I can go to a man and he can pray for me and I can be healed. Well, what's wrong with that? We've seen too many demonstrations of that. But that wasn't Neville's practice and way. Are you listening to me?
Yes.
Now, if the other systems taught what I'm about to show you what the distinction is also, but it seems that Neville was dedicated to this way that I'm about to share with you, which is not what I just shared with you. You come to me and I can pray for you. Sure, I've had many demonstrations and working with people where they demonstrated and were healed as a result of coming to me and I prayed for them. But there was something going on in my mind that was not the same as what was going on in some of the other people's mind when they prayed for somebody. What was going on in my mind is what I'm telling you, what Neville brings out clearly. I hope I can control myself. Okay, this is feeling good. I love it. See, when you follow these lessons here, Neville is the kind of teacher who puts it in your hand like Jesus did. Like Jesus did. Neville taught like Jesus taught. They came to Jesus to be healed, for Jesus to heal them. But if you're following the teachings of Jesus' mission and his teaching was to empower the people to heal themselves. He had a disclaimer. It is not I who doeth the works. It is the Father within me. He doeth the works. Why callest thou me good? Don't look at me. I have no power of my own. All these things ye see. That was Neville. And so Neville's instructions in all of those books are the most simple instructions that you can possibly find that I've ever seen. And how to take this thing called the law of mind and put it into practice, into action for yourself. And if you do it this way, you are guaranteed results. Now I'm gone. Do you see? I'm trying to tell you guys something. When you read, Neville's books are replete with testimonies than any writer that I've ever read. That's what they're all about. Am I right? Name me some other of those that you named. You threw out many names, and you read it. So how many of their books have you seen testimonies, miracles, demonstrations? Trying to tell you something. That's true. Not, and most of them, not even of their own lives and what the things that, but they tell you how to do it. And they are lessons. But the difference with Neville is that his whole intent was to empower you, and he left simple instructions. When you read the testimonies, which are many, of others, you will see that they're giving the testimonies out of doing the things that he's writing about. Either this way or that way. Either they did it, they performed. Even before he met some of them. Let's talk about Grandfather's secret. Grandfather's secret, Grandfather didn't learn his secrets from Neville. The point is, Grandfather didn't learn his secrets from Neville, but Neville wrote about what happened and how those things happened for Grandfather. Do you see? Yeah. So the point here is, bottom line is that this teaching is designed to empower you to heal yourself, to demonstrate yourself, and not to rely on Reverend Amon or somebody else to pray for you. Get your mind off that mess. Well, then what am I here for? Okay, I'm here for it just like Neville was for. I'm going to walk you through this thing. Now I'm going to give you a demonstration. I just have a problem standing. Ooh, my goodness. Ooh. 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 Here's an example. Here's an example of you do this yourself. You do this yourself. The teacher is just guiding you and pointing it out. And even while you sit here and listen, you can do this yourself and rise up above something that's on your mind now, something that's bothering you, and something that's troubling you. It can happen just in that instant. All of those people that Neville has written about, it happened the same way. They talk about the woman who was riding on the trolley car, wanting to go home to see her family, right? For Christmas in some island or something, right? Hawaii. The point is that something happened in her thinking, in her mind in that moment. Didn't nobody pray for her. She just thought, visualized, and used her imagination. And that can happen in an instant, in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye. It can take place and happen. It happened in here last week. Right? Here's a testimony that I'm going to read to you. What were we talking now? Let me give you what my topic is today. Number one, why prayer fails. Number two was what? The empty lot, right? Was that? We gotta go, you gotta recall that to.
Leave it in, remember one.
Okay. Let me tell you what it is. The empty lot, and then lesson 3 was, and now. Remember? And today is, I was. I was. That was the lesson that was given us last week. Because you know I'm staying in real time. And that came through Carol. You see, the Holy Spirit is speaking through you. The teacher is the capital T. Amon is the facilitator. The teacher is among us. The healer is a capital H. The healer is among us. This is a spiritual place where anything can happen. While you're sitting here, you don't have to wait until you go out that door and wait till you go home and do some meditation imagination. What? No, come on, y'all. You've been together too long. Come on, we got to grow up. We got to mature. I'm observing, come on. Grandfather, he said, was standing in front of an empty lot. And your paper turning is bothering me. The noise distracts me. He was standing in front of the empty lot. That was his secret of demonstration. He was a builder. He was in real estate in New York in the early days. And he was sharing with people his secret of success. He told the story that Neville tells the story of what he saw in the vision. Grandfather would have this vivid imagination of what he desired on that lot. He had this clear, vivid imagination of it. And then he would say in his mind, he would believe, I remember when this was an empty lot. I remember when, and sometime after it was established, the building was established on that empty lot. We're using that as a model. We're using that as an example in our daily prayer. It happened here last week for somebody. Testimony I'm going to read about. And I remember when, then, therefore, is our anchoring thought and idea. I remember when. Because grandfather remembered when it was empty, when it was an empty lot, and the empty lot became established according to the vivid desire that he had in his mind. The third week, our topic was, and now, which grew out of someone's question here, who at the end of the lesson we were asking for sharing, and Tessa said, well, help me to clarify this. If I say I remember when, she was asking, at what point or how do I handle being in the now at the same time? You're saying that he saw it established. How do I articulate that? How do I work that out in my mind? It's an empty lot, and at the same time, what I'm desiring is already established. And I said to her, well, what you have to do is see it like in a simultaneous, same time consciousness. So you need a conjunction. Remember we talked about that? And so I remember when, and at the same time you get into the feeling, because feeling is the secret. So how do you get into that feeling? Feeling is the secret. That it's already done now, then you just say, I remember when and now. I remember when it was an empty lot, and now, or but now. And now, I remember when I was sick, but now I'm well. I remember when I was in fear all the time, but and now I'm at peace and I'm not afraid of anything. I remember when I could not see my way through, but now I see nothing but possibility. My mind is stuck in possibility thinking, I remember. Go on and on and on. And so that's how our topic grew out of the third lesson. And now. And then at the end of, at the beginning of the session, that was tested. Then last week, when we were talking about and now, I started the session off by asking if there was anybody who wanted to share about how this stuff is working for you and how you used it between last week and this week, and Carolyn spoke up. You remember what she shared?
Yes.
Well, that's what today's lesson grows up. See, the Holy Spirit is moving, and He's guiding us. Do you see? And it's simple, and it's easy. Who can share what, not Carolyn, but who can share the essence of what Carolyn did share?
I remember she was saying that her sister had fallen out of communication with the family. And she had been sitting here in class and realized that she needed to go to her sister and talk to her sister. And in her action of doing, now the family is in communication with the sister again.
Okay, that's good. Because there are a couple of people here today who were not here last week. Now, you put into practice what you heard. And it's not so much what you said in the interaction with your sister. It was the mindset that you were in. It's what you were seeing in your mind, what you were feeling in your heart. You were into that state of mind. And out of that state of mind of seeing the estrangement heal, and your desire was family unification, that was your desire. And we say that your desire fulfills itself. We say that the answer to the problem is in the problem. The answer to the sickness is in the sickness. The answer to the need is in the need. That is the desire. Whatsoever things ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them in the now, and ye shall have them. It will manifest the disharmony, the break, the whatever it is. It will do its own thing. It will fulfill itself. Once you listened to the voice and got up and moved toward the sister, the answer was already waiting. You didn't need to do anything but go and into the empty lot that was an empty lot, because it was already, the healing had already taken place. What I got out of that for today was but the I was came through a testimony from a person who saw the video, who listened to it, and called and had a long, extended conversation. What I did was took notes, and what I did was wrote what he said, sent the email to him for him to edit and verify and send it back. And here's what came out of that. Dear Reverend Amon, it works. I have followed the Lessons on Inspiration's website for quite some time. The sharing and testimonies in the group have been very helpful. No doubt the Holy Spirit speaks through you, but as you say, He speaks through others in the group as well. In the session on And Now, part 3 of the series on the law of assumption, You opened the meeting inviting people to share how the lessons had helped them since the last meeting and for questions. This is what one lady said, quote, "I have been dealing with a situation where in over 10 years, my oldest sister suddenly stopped speaking to the family. So, after last week's lesson, I applied the teaching." That's what Carolyn said. And she went on to say, "I went into meditation and I began to say, 'I remember when,' followed by, 'and now.'" Well, that's what we had talked about for 2 weeks. That ended her quote. Oh no, my printing went off the line. I'm going to start it over. "I went into meditation and I began to say, 'I remember when,' followed by, 'and now,' as you instructed. In my meditation, the now came." You remember when she said that? "In my meditation, the now came. And I sensed a voice in my mind saying to me, 'Carolyn, get dressed and go to your sister's home.' So I followed what Spirit said and found that my sister was hesitant at first in greeting me, but it ended in beauty. She later called my youngest sister, and the family is speaking now." Now, isn't that something? We apply the same principle to every other thing. This is an example. This is the way. Jesus taught the way. He says, "Go, your faith hath made you well. Go, your faith hath, go, do these things. Do not be, blessed are those who were doers of the word and not hearers only," is an example here. "It is done unto you as you believe," Jesus said. It is done unto you as you believe. Okay. The writer goes on to say, "I have had an estranged relationship with my youngest son, who I had to make leave the home due to bad choices for his life, having to do with school, career, and working, and so forth. My heart has been sad for almost a year behind the need to take this action. I'm saddened because I had to do that, because he told about other issues with the son. My son has only returned to the home about twice, and then only to pick up something or to get money, but never to visit. He has no communication with any of the other in the family. Is that? I have not known what to do or how to bring healing to this matter, always being afraid that I might not do the right thing." That was you. While he's looking, that was you. "All during the rest of the day and as I fell asleep, I continued to hear the voice in my mind say, 'That was you.'" Because it was your story. That was you. "And then, at 2 o'clock in the morning, the next day, I awoke from sleep and the very first thought on my mind was, 'That was you. That was you.' But this time I laughed out loud and praised God, saying, 'I got it. I got it. That was me.'" Where's my topic? That was. See, he got it. It was, that was you. So then, that was me. That was me, which means that it is no longer me now. That's me. That was me. But it's no longer me now. The healing, he realized, had taken place based on all of these teachings that he's been listening to in that moment. So if it was, then it is not now. if the lot was empty, then, and now it's not. Everybody got that?
Yes.
I began to think the thought, I remember when my son was estranged, and now he is not. And now, that was. Now from that point forward, you don't worry about the rest, because you don't know the rest. You don't know how this thing is going to continue to work on out. You just stay right there in, that was the situation between you and me, but that was. I remember when it was. Remembering when it was means that it's not that way right now. I realized at that moment that the problem had been healed. Now, the workshop was on Tuesday morning, and this happened early on Wednesday morning. I received a call from my son on Thursday morning telling me that he was coming to the house on the next day, which was Friday, to bring something to show me. He came and presented a copy of his contract for his enrollment in college. He told me of his new plan for school and his new job. While he was there, he asked if he could move back into the home to complete the school program and then later move into his own apartment. I chose to let go of the past and follow the Holy Spirit's guidance on what to do next. This lesson on I remember when, and then, and now is amazing. Thank you and the group so very much for letting the Holy Spirit help us through you and your wonderful group. Love and blessings. So, just let me stay here and then I'll come out there. The emphasis is on I was. That's that. I was. I remember when, and now, then I was. And you said that I was. I was sick. Right? I was dealing with this. I was angry. I was in a state of couldn't see. I was means I am not now. That brings me back to the beginning of talking about teachers and being careful. And that is the role, in my opinion, and from my place and from what I do, that is how I show up. I don't show up as the person who will pray for you and you will be healed. It has happened many times. And when I do that, or thinking that I'm doing that, I'm doing it with the expectation that you are a trained mind who understands what I'm doing and what my intention is, and we are co-partners in prayer. And you understand whatever comes out of my mouth, and you are in this process of imagination with me, and you're seeing, and you see what I'm saying? And I'm knowing that I'm not doing anything. I'm just trying to lead you to a place of connection. Because I don't have no power here, but I know if I can get you to touch the hem of his garment, touch the hem of his garment. If the woman said, if I can just touch the hem of his garment. That's the hem of his garment, this teaching. You see, that is there for anybody to touch. That's what he did. That's what you did. That's what I do in my personal life. I don't go to nobody to pray for me. In fact, I was in the hospital once for a few hours. I was walking around, just wasn't hitting on all cylinders, and I just suddenly became, crazy. Went to the doctor, and they told me, don't go home. And I said, well, because I'm more serious, you're more serious than you think. So then what I did do, I said I'll be back. So I went home and got my laptop, my books, my stuff, and then I went back. And then Jeannie came in there somewhere. If she take me or pick me up, I think she picked me up. Anyway, they were telling me how long they thought I would be there, and then I'm laying up there in the bed, So I set myself up, and I was working in workshops, and I was doing my stuff. And so the doctor came in, told me planning to do this, and the woman came in from some department, looking at me and saying, do you need to talk about this, and and I said, no, I just have a philosophy, I just do it. I'm not saying I ain't sick, I'm just saying that you do your thing, I do mine. She said, okay. Then the next day, I was only in there one day. I was supposed to be in there for a while. And the cleaning lady came in. She says, I just wanted to come in here and see who they were talking about. I just wanted to come in here and see who they were talking about. Because I just wasn't doing this and doing that. And I said, you do your thing, I'll do mine. And so the next day, before the 24-hour cycle, the doctors told me, well, you need to go home. So I went home. The point is that I was at Guidance Church then. And I sent word. I had to let Dr. Dan know where I was because I was administrator of the church at that time. But I also said, I don't want anybody praying for me. Because you know how they do. They get up in the pulpit, we'll pray for you. Sitting out them prayers and stuff, and then other people praying for you. No. I don't want anybody, and tell everybody, I don't want nobody praying for me. Because I think people can mess you up.
Yeah.
Praying something that ain't real into reality. Because they don't see. So what I'm saying to us, you are a group of trained people with trained minds. And praying together should be easy for us. Because you're safe with people who are using the power and know how to use it. And people who are trained to not see what others see and what you were seeing. You want somebody who does not see what you have been seeing. And somebody who's trained to see what you are now seeing and agree, where two or more agree. As touching anything in my name, in my nature, there am I, the answer in the midst of them. That's Neville. And that's what Neville is doing here. Neville is empowering you to heal your life, heal yourself through the power of imagination. And he's giving you simple instructions here. And that's everything that I've said today is just a repeat of that. We cannot go out of this door and out of this place not actually doing this. Not just, you see, there's a difference between a sermon, a homily, a talk, and that's what happens through the majority of the churches in not only New Thought, but in all the other churches too. But there's a smaller percentage of them that are only giving this that you're getting now, Neville's practice. And where that method is taught, there's healing. There's demonstration. There's stuff happening. But from the other homilies, sermons, talks, lessons, you don't never see nothing happening. Be honest. Am I right?
Yes.
That's because this part is missing. That when you walk out of this door, you have some definite things to do. And with that, knowing how to do it. But what's missing is the lack of commitment and laziness. Consistency. Persistency. That's what's missing. The other thing, and I'm going to close, is this. That the example of what happened last week through Carolyn, or herself first, and then through this person, is this. Here's something that we miss too often. Well, and that is this. Is that for this person, for example, he realized that it had happened, that it did happen. We get stuck in still expecting and working on some process. On some process. The process is the time it takes for you to just walk into the realization of it. The demonstrate, it's already the belief that it's already done, and just do it. This person said, I realized that my problem had been healed. He didn't know what was going to happen the next day. It could have taken 6 more months his way for that situation to be resolved. He just walked away and let it go, just like you did. And then the thing worked out. Okay. How did that help you today? How did that confuse you? And how did that clear up for you?
When you said I remember when, Sunday I was in a sports bar, and this lady, she just came up and she was just very pushy and just started yak. And it irritated me at first, but then I just observed her. And I thought about this teaching and whatnot, and I said, I remember when I was that way. I said, and now I'm this. And it didn't click until you said what that was. So that is that at work. Another question. Do we have to repetitively say it all the time, or can we just say it once and let it be?
Good question. You just hold it in mind. You don't have to repetitively say it.
Okay.
Well, let me answer it this way. I said it up there, but you asked it to be clarified. It comes under the name state of being. That's what Neville teaches. State of being. Your goal is whatever it takes. So your answer to your question could be yes for you in that situation and no for her. Because what you're doing, what you're trying to do is whatever it takes for you to stay into that state of being, state of mind. Because that's the reality of it. That's the real essence of it. So if it requires for you to stay in that state of being, to say it repetitively, okay. But that might not be necessary for me. For me, I just need to keep my mind. Well, Isaiah 26:3 puts it this way. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace about that situation, whose mind is stayed off of it and on God. But it says, thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. Translation, thou wilt keep him in perfect peace. In that place, that state of mind, where I am working on this situation, I got it, thou wilt keep him in perfect peace about the situation, perfect knowingness that it's already done, perfect knowingness that I got this, you don't even have to worry about it, you don't even need to use your mind. I'm going to give you a coupon. This is on me. This is on me. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed off the problem, who stayed off the empty lot, Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace who is not seeing an empty lot, but seeing that building. How many stories you want? Where? How many? Where's the view? Who? Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee. So, we talked about the candle. Remember, we started off by talking about how to use the candle. We talked about whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. And my mind is trained. I don't have to struggle with that. You know, my mind is just automatically trained to dismiss stuff. And people. I don't have a problem dismissing people. I don't have a problem dismissing stuff. I don't have a problem dismissing problems. I do not. You know why? Because I've experienced the peace of being without.
Yes. Yes.
And I choose not that, not you.
That's right.
Let me come right now.
See if this is what you're talking about, because this reminds me. I always talked about my mother. She was a counselor, and she loved Reverend Amon because she said the things that she knew, he knew how to explain it to you, so you got it. So one time, one of her members of her church, her pregnant daughter had been staying on 51st and Crenshaw, make this fast, and she got shot by a stray bullet. She was like 7.5 months pregnant. So my mother immediately went to the hospital to sit with her mother. So my mother was short and very non-assuming. She didn't see she wasn't like this big person. So the doctor came in and he says, if there's a problem, who do you want to save, the baby or the mother? My mother said, I want both of them. And he goes, no, little lady, you don't understand what I'm saying. She says, I know what you're saying. I want both of them. She said, and this is what reminded me of you. She said, you go do what you do, and I'll do what I do. So that morning he came in and he goes, who are you, little lady? She says, I'm just me. I'm Reverend Bernice Edwards. And he says, well, the bullet didn't hit any important organs. We're going to leave the bullet in until she delivers the baby. Now me, I'm in college and I know everything about music therapy. She says, I want you to make a tape for the mother to listen to so the baby will be traumatized. How did this woman know about trauma? This was like in the 80s. So I made this tape, and there was this song she liked, Center of My Joy. I played it 2 or 3 times on the tape. Fast forward, the baby's born, about a month old. The mother comes to pick her own mother up at a choir rehearsal, and I'm playing Center of My Joy. The baby goes off. And the mother said she hadn't listened to the tape since the birth of the baby. Now, all these things these scientists say now, I found our ancestors knew it. But I just want to say, it reminded me, because she said, Amon has a certain way of explaining to you what I already know.
The question I had was, in this mental fast that you have, it seems to be contradicting in the, I refrain from talking about the past, and this is saying I remember when is taking us into the past of where we were. So it seems to me like there's, how do I do the remember when and also not be in this staying, it's just the habit of living in.
But since this is on tape, I'll listen to it and think about it and answer it next week. Because I don't see it right there. I'll answer it. I'll respond to it. But I'm not. I would have to read it and meditate and get into it. It would take too much time. Yes.
From that question from last week, I sat still and had to think about it because it helped me in some personal things in my life. But it also shifted me to understand that part of the way that I found the church was through my sickness. But my sickness was something that I think I had asked for because I was praying to God to heal my body. But I didn't know I was sick. I just wanted to be healthy and feel better. And in that prayer, because after but it's not an appointment. This is really me going to the doctor to find out as much information as they have about what they think is going on in this body. And for me, because I've learned from the other issue, is to now research it. What's wrong? I'm going to find out what I need to know to put into my prayer, into my... so it can be healed and so it can be fixed.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. My name is Free. I've been here before and I come here for quiet rehearsal sometimes. I wanted to tell you that I was diagnosed with certain things. And I healed myself through cleansing my body, through knowing the truth of who I am, that I was created completely. Whatever the doctors had diagnosed me, I didn't believe it. And so, the next time I went to the doctor, my fibroids were gone. I was able to carry a baby to term. So, because these are the things the doctor told me, that I couldn't have children, and I would have to have a hysterectomy, I didn't believe it. I would not believe it until I started doing things on my own, fasting, praying, and knowing the truth that God was with me and I was created perfect, whole, and complete. And before a year was over, I was pregnant, I was going to have a baby, and those fibroids were gone. So I healed myself. So it's all about you knowing who you are, who you were created to be, and that you have a healing power within you. So I don't rely on the doctors anymore. I don't rely on, they're good, intelligence. I don't discredit them in what they do, but I also know my body. And if you know your body and you know God, then you know that you are God and you came here already perfect.
Amen. Just use the doctor for affirmation of your mouth.
Good morning. Last week I came here really distraught about my marital relationship, and all types of thoughts, chaos was in my mind. When Reverend Amon started reading the prayer, it was a long prayer, but every line was a dose of medicine to my soul, to my being. And I got in the feeling and the flow and the understanding of that. And I said, I'm going to go home and print that out because I didn't have it. I missed 2 of those lessons. And I listened intently. And I didn't know, as I told Reverend Amon, I don't know what to put on that empty lot.
Yeah.
You all heard everything. And when I left here, I didn't know if I wanted to be angry, whether I wanted to divorce, or whether I wanted to hit him on his head. But I knew I had to go into prayer. So as the hours went past, I found myself wondering, what am I angry about? Wait a minute. So then I go back and I get it. And as the minutes went by and the hours went back, it was harder and harder for me to retrieve whatever it was. And I said, okay, well, I got to go home and I've got to get that prayer because I need it. I remember the essence of it. And eventually I got to a place and I said, okay, I'm really trying to dig up some dead shit. Yeah. It's being worked out. It's already worked out. Get with it. And I got with it. And I talked with my husband. And he looked at me and I looked at him and he said, well, this is what I was feeling, babe. This is what I was feeling, babe. He said, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I said, well, that's all I really needed to hear. Because it was so far back in my gone that I really didn't need to bring up what it was. So I just said, that prayer is in my head. The essence of what was said was in my soul. I didn't, in answer to the question, I didn't have to fill it up again. I didn't have to keep repeating it. I didn't have to do all that because I took it all in. And praise you, thank you, Father, Mother God, in the essence of Reverend Armand. When I came here today, I kissed my husband, see you later, and he was planting some collard greens for me.
Armistice sharing reminded me of something to